One of the UK's biggest construction firms is facing serious questions tonight over building safety after a BBC investigation uncovered major design flaws in the balconies of one of their flagship developments. Bouygues UK, the construction giant behind thousands of homes, hospitals and public buildings, was paid over £40 million to build the Weavers' Quarter estate in Barking in East London, where, as we've previously reported, residents have faced major problems with their balconies. Now, BBC London has obtained the original architectural drawings and shown them to independent experts. Their verdict is damning. The balconies were so badly designed they posed a risk to life. Our investigations reporter Guy Lynn has this exclusive story.
For the first time in a year, Kinga and her children step onto their balcony.
Okay, you can open.
Weird. Quite weird. Like, it has been locked for a while. We have been pretty scared to use the balconies. My son is still a bit scared.
Until now, they'd been warned it was too dangerous. But after months of repair, it's finally safe to walk on.
There should be some absolute basic standards met in terms of, the new developments. And something like this is just absolutely horrendous.
The nightmare began for hundreds of residents in late 2023, when one of the balconies on the Weavers' Quarter on the Gascoigne estate in Barking partially collapsed. Scaffolding went up as fears grew that scores more balconies across the estate would follow. BBC London wanted to understand why a balcony on a new build development had failed so badly. We sent samples of the wood from the collapsed structure for independent testing to check its strength and how easily it absorbed water. Shockingly, scientists found it was more suitable for a kitchen cupboard than the British weather.
In summary, if that product came to me fresh and had never been outdoors, I would be saying that this should be used indoors only.
So how worried would you be to know that that product was being used in balconies?
I think that's quite a big fail on somebody's part.
Bouygues UK, who built the estate, told us the balconies were prefabricated off-site by a subcontractor. That subcontractor, we can reveal, was this company, Weldrite UK, based in Kent, who used a cheaper and weaker wood, potentially putting hundreds of residents at risk. Not exactly delighted to see us when we went to get some pictures of their factory.
Well, you need to put your camera down, though, you need to get off the property now.
Weldrite UK told us it wasn't their fault. Bouygues UK signed off on the build and never asked for changes. And the design was flawed.
The landowner said you're not allowed to film on the property.
OK, all right, fine, we'll leave.
Yeah.
From the start, this story has been a catalogue of errors, with everyone trying to blame everyone else for what went wrong. Now, though, the BBC has seen new evidence. These documents which we've obtained raise really quite worrying questions about the genesis, the design of this project, right from the start. Bouygues, one of the UK's top construction firms, has built hospitals, schools and homes across Britain and was paid more than £40 million to deliver the estate in 2019. We've shown the original balcony designs produced by Bouygues UK to 6 independent experts, including structural engineers, materials specialists and facade consultants, for their opinion.
This is one of the poorest ones I've seen.
In your life?
Yeah, in my life, yeah.
The inferior wood used by Weldrite UK, which was contrary to the design, caused the collapse to happen more quickly. But all the experts agree, even with the correct materials, these balconies were susceptible to fail eventually. And this expert says Bouygues UK's original design was a ticking time bomb.
The way it's been shown on the drawing that it goes together is poor, so the water can't get out. They haven't allowed the right gaps in the right places, the drainage in the right places. Timber will rot, and if it rots, it will then collapse. Whoever's checked the drawing and then signed it off for construction is obviously got it wrong, because it wouldn't actually stay up. It's a disaster that things are being designed this way, because you're looking at risk to life, basically.
We asked Bouygues UK why balconies with serious design flaws were approved, what safety checks were in place at the time, and why more wasn't done to independently verify the development before completion. They didn't answer those questions, instead referring to a previous statement in which they apologised, said remediation work was underway, and took safety very seriously.
The issue we were told was that it was substandard materials. To then find out that it was actually the design as well, it brings us right back to square one, not getting a straight answer. And once again, we feel like our safety is bottom of the list.
This was an extreme case, but not the only example of problems with new build developments.
I would like to be able to make sense of how this balcony design got through and how it got put on the building and how it was passed by building control. I can offer no reason as to why this was allowed to happen. With this balcony, you couldn't have got a worse case scenario. It should have been obvious that it was going to fail in a very short period of time.
This estate was marketed as a showcase, affordable homes to help people onto the housing ladder. But knowing the design was so dangerously flawed from the start has only deepened the fear of living here, felt by hundreds on this estate. Guy Lynn, BBC London.
Well, this, of course, raises questions about new build design and safety. Paula Higgins is from the HomeOwners Alliance. Thank you for being here with us this evening. First of all, what's your reaction to what we've just seen there?
It's absolutely shocking. I mean, it's amazing how this got through. There's a category of errors. It looks like no one's taking responsibility. There should be lots of checks in place. And it's the poor people who are living there who are worried. And it shouldn't have happened. And hopefully it won't happen again.
Paula, your organisation offers help and advice for buyers. Obviously, that is an extreme case. Can you reassure people watching that most new builds don't have anything near that kind of risk?
Yes, I mean, there's, usually a new build will be designed correctly. It'll go through building control, so there'll be checks and balances. Normally, when you're buying a new build, you will get things like snagging issues, poor workmanship, things like that, which will be fine. You can deal with them. You can go to the managing agent and that sort of thing. Sometimes water leaks. So it's generally the vast majority of new builds are fine. And that's why we've got a regulatory system in place to stop these types of issues occurring.
And so, when thankfully the problems are relatively minor, what do people do? What can they do?
Well, the first protocol is to complain, to escalate, to speak to the building manager or to the freeholder to find out, to get things fixed. If you're not getting any joy with that, you can escalate. We always say make sure you get everything done in writing. So if it's a new build, if it's actually within 2 years, you can go to a consumer code. If you are, in this case, it was a housing association, is that you can go to the ombudsman as well, the housing ombudsman, to get redress. But I must stress that if it is something that you're really worried about, it's dangerous and it's a risk to health and safety, you can go to the local authority, and the local authority does have the powers to put things right and to demand that the developer makes things right. But this would be in rare cases. Usually it's more snagging type issues.
And then just finally, if you go to your managing agent and you're not happy with what they're doing, then where do you go?
Well, I mean, as I said, you can go through these different routes, but unfortunately, sometimes managing agents are not doing what you want them to do. So there are opportunities. You can go to the First Property Tribunal and get a new manager, appoint a new manager. But ideally, you want to get control over your own building. You want to get the right to manage. So there's a process for that, and that's probably the best route to do. So you won't have these problems later on, and you've got control over your own building.
But it does obviously require a lot of input from those homeowners.
It does. There's eligibility criteria. You've got to speak to all your neighbours. There's lots of advice out there on our site, the Leasehold Advisory Service, that you can go to get advice.
Well, that's really, really helpful. Paula Higgins from the HomeOwners Alliance, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you.